Hey there, guys. This is Malorian, and this is going to be another Paintisode. For those of you who have not done these Paintisodes before, basically, I have questions that people submitted to me in the last video I put up. I just put a video up the day before. I'll be covering those questions, and I'll be painting. And the whole idea is that you're going to be painting at the same time and listening. And at the end of about roughly an hour, you have stuff painted, I have stuff painted, and we've yapped about this few stuff. So first of all, what am I painting? I am painting a Signar Hunter. It is actually my third Hunter that I am going to be painting here. I actually own 4 now from good old Christmas. And Hunters are a jack I used to really love, and then they just kind of fell out of my list. I just never used them. And lately, I think it's actually because I saw a list from Trevi the Great where he was using 6. Really made me look at them more. He was running them with Kane 1 with his tier list. I'm actually looking at running them with Cray. So that's kind of fun with them because they get to move and then fast cav move and all that fun stuff. But yeah, they're kind of fun. So I'm going to be picking away at that, and then also picking away at the questions that people sent me. So I'm going to be going across to that now, and if people make more questions during this video, I can always cover those too. I better pause that other one here so I'm not messing things up. And our first one comes from Whoopie Womp, which says, did you get a new camera? You're all super HD in this video. And it's true. This is the new camera I was talking about before. It is a Canon Vixia HFR 500. It is a big, huge jump ahead of what my old video camera was. I didn't even use my old video camera for a long time now, but this webcam here is pretty good. This is even better, and best yet, this here, I don't need to bring my computer. I can just set this up on the tripod, it can record, and the other thing is that when it's recording, whereas the webcam would have made the close stuff really good, and they got blurry as you went out, this makes everything really high definition. So really, really happy with this. I already have the one bell report out there that's going to be talking about that stuff. I see Groosh Monkey is going to be watching this one, so that's my brother. I'll see what stuff he'll be trolling me with. All right, and that's really it. So Whoopie Womp, this is the new camera, and expect a lot of great stuff coming. Next one here, and I guess I should be painting while I do this, and I got my what flavor is this? Tropical Orange Breezer. Next question here comes from Ross Figure Painting Co. UK. I know you are more War Machine these days, but would still appreciate your expert thoughts on Warhammer comp systems. Not whether or not they are good, a good idea, but comments on what greenskin units and tactics might work. Example, hordes are really expensive in Swedish comp, especially Malorian style troll hordes, meaning especially like 40 trolls over 500 points. It's like they designed the comp system to stop Malorian hordes. Surely not. ETC looks really complicated. A few words be enough on that if you fancy it. Also, what do you think about Swedish comp for friendly games? I was thinking that having an agreed comp might help. Let's both play with 14 points or softer. Well, like you said, you told me not to talk about whether I like comp or not, but that's actually going to play a very big part into this question here because I really don't like comp. I never like comp very much. For the War Machine viewers watching, it'd be kind of like going to a tournament and saying, you can't use Haley 2 because she's too powerful. And then the Signal players would say, like, okay, I understand that, but then why do you get to play Gaspy 2? And the Crix players saying, well, okay, we'll stop using Gaspy 2, but then you can't use Kane 2. And it's just all these things about where, you know, the whole idea is to balance things, but then in the end, you just have everyone arguing on what's balanced or not. But like you said, that's not what this is about. However, because I am so against comp, I only really investigated comp as absolutely needed. And I spit on myself when needed as well. And so really, when you look at a Swedish comp, I didn't even get into Swedish comp. Basically, Swedish comp is a lot more precise, where your unit is not just a simple thing where, oh, this you can't take or whatever. It's really, okay, how big is this unit? What type of unit is it? You get points, and in the end, you get a score. And that's what he's talking about with a 14 or softer. And it's just a really complicated mess. It's just, it takes way too long to figure out what this comp is. And again, because there's so much math involved, you can really argue every little finite point in it, and I just really didn't like it. So really, for me to try and tell you what's the best army to take for Swedish comp would be kind of impossible, because I don't really know Swedish comp in its entirety. I know with some other, like the ETC rules, you really seem like the loophole was getting in characters. There's a lot of comp on unit size and big hordes, but then all you just do is take the biggest unit that's allowed within the comp and then just stack it full of characters. So you can't always do that. Of course, orcs and goblins can get a lot of characters for cheap. And really, I mean, what I can say about all comp systems is really take a look at the whole comp and almost write it down and say, these are all the things that are comped heavily, right? Maybe you can have like a bad, okay, a fine, right? And so all the ones that are heavily comped, put those in the bad. And then everything that's kind of comped, put in the okay, and then everything that's not really comped, put in the fine. And then really, you want to be focusing on that okay and fine area and say, what's the dirtiest list I can make with what they actually allow? So maybe this comp really, really hates Doom Divers. Well, can I make a list that's not based so much on Doom Divers? And again, Swedish comp really gets very detailed, so it gets harder there. But man, what else can I say other than I'm just not a fan of Swedish comp, and go play at a different tournament. It's really just looking at what the comp is and then trying to break that system. And for a lot of these, it seems the way that you break them nowadays is through characters. So that's really the best I can say there. I do see we have viewers now, so if you're watching, post up questions. I'll be getting to yours in the end. Hopefully I'll be painting you eventually too as well. That's the kind of thing with all these questions. I spend all my time answering and reading the questions and not painting. But that's okay. We'll get some stuff done. Just yesterday I painted this guy, so I got my quota for the week. Anyway, John Talby saying, are you going to narrate any more of your wife's craft videos and get her to narrate some of your War Machine Return? Or did that get a bit too heated? It got very heated. There is a lot of people who loved those videos, thought they were a lot of fun, especially on my side. I mean, people love seeing, they thought it was funny when I'm making fun of the scrapbooking stuff. They thought it's cute and funny when my wife is talking about my things. But on her side, basically when she's explaining what was happening to her friends and her community for the scrapbookers, they're just insulted, right? They're like, oh yeah, you're just making fun of our hobby, and then you're making us try and talk about your hobby and look like an idiot. And it's a completely different reaction. I mean, to the point where, like the wife is crying saying, you don't respect my hobby. And, like it was a very touchy subject. So I keep on lightly trying to suggest we try something like that again. And what it might have to be is like we starting more with her talking about and narrating over one of mine. But the problem is that I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. She's just kind of really against the whole thing, which is too bad because I actually thought it was a lot of fun. But the problem is that you need both sides to have fun. Otherwise, it all falls apart. So I wouldn't rule them out. I wouldn't say there's never going to be another one, but there definitely won't be one in the near future, unfortunately. Maybe for my birthday, I mean, that can be my thing I ask is like, hey, can I just narrate one of your videos? It wouldn't be too hard for me to make it happen. I can just go on her computer anytime, grab her file, and then do my thing. She doesn't even watch my channel, so she probably wouldn't learn about it. However, one of my best friends who comes over for board games, he loves that stuff, and he talks about it whenever he comes over. So that's probably where she'd learn about it. You know, my buddy would come over and be like, "Oh yeah, that last time you made so much fun of that thing, that was hilarious." And she'll go, "What?" And then I'll be sleeping on the couch. So I don't know. We got to find some middle ground there. He had another one here saying, how hard has it been to rebuild your channel when you switched from Warhammer to War Machine? It sounded like you lost a lot of your old customer base when you switched. I did. I lost a lot of my old customer base, but I also kept a lot as well. I really did think I'd be losing more than I did. My first estimation was that my subscribers was going to drop below 4,000, and that was what I was prepared for. And now things have really leveled off, whereas before I was in like absolute free fall. Now it seems that I'm going to stop before I hit 5,000, and now it's at the point where I'm starting to gain those War Machine ones. And especially now that with the thanks to my good camera, I'm going to be putting out better War Machine reports, I really do expect that I'm going to be starting to gain again. You know, I've gone through this whole thing before. I've talked people through this process. I know how basically starting on the bottom can be really discouraging, and how it's going to take a long time to rebuild and all this. So I was really mentally prepared for the losses I was bound to take. I am very happy that a lot of people decided to stay with me, be it either because they were interested in War Machine or they're just loyal War Machine fans, loyal Malorian fans. And I think those were the biggest ones that, to me, was like, wow, you know, like people might not give a damn about what I'm saying, but they want to watch these just because it's Malorian. And that really does make me feel really good. And thank you to all you guys who did that. And hopefully, one of the reasons why I try and do some of these videos that can be applied to War Machine or to Warhammer is to make sure I'm giving a little bit back to them as well. So that could be things like, you know, how to deal with cheating or stuff like that that you really see in any hobby, so that no matter whether you're a War Machine fan or a Warhammer fan, or who knows, maybe a stray Magic the Gathering fan or something that wandered in here, that you're getting something from it. So I'm going to try and mix those in. Last one from John Tailby saying, and I keep on wondering, is it Talby? Maybe if you tell me how I'm supposed to be pronouncing that last one, because you comment a lot, you know, like here's one of my loyal fans. It'd probably be good if I was saying your name right. But anyway, last one, are you going to do another training montage video to get in shape for Team Canada? If I make Team Canada, which again, I think it's a long shot to make it this year. I think it's a lot more viable going for the next year, but we'll see. We'll see. If I do make the team, absolutely, you can bet 100% I will be doing another training montage. And for those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, either because you're a new War Machine guy joining me or what have you, basically I had a training montage when I was going to one of the bigger Warhammer tournaments where I have the Rocky music in the back, and it's all these Canadian type things. So I'm doing push-ups in the snow and, you know, cooking bacon and doing, you know, nerdy game type things. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be making another one of those. Clearly, the first step, though, is to actually make the team. It'd be kind of silly to make a training montage if I don't actually make the team. But we will see what happens there. Next question coming from the Gonk saying, I would like to start producing hobby content for my channel in the new year. Do you have any advice on startup and how to for YouTube new starters, please? Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I get asked a lot of as well. People starting up channels and they're wanting some advice. And it's not even just from new players. I mean, sometimes it's just from discouraged YouTubers wanting to kind of get a fresh start and want to say, hey, you know, like maybe I approached this in the wrong way. What can I do to be a successful YouTuber? And the first thing I'd say is you got to figure out what your niche is going to be. So in my Warhammer, what I decided I was going to do there is I was going to be tactics and battle reports. Those are going to be my two main things. And that's really what I continued for the whole time. Why did people come to Malorian? Well, it's because he did all the battle reports and he did all the orc tactical teams. And eventually, one of the things that turned into, as I learned what people wanted, I started doing book reviews. And so really now that it comes to War Machine, I'm needing to re-investigate that. One of the things I don't normally do is buy the books, because most of the stuff in the books aren't for armies I really care about. The rules I can always get somewhere else. But hey, maybe one of the things that my viewers want is for me to do book reviews for War Machine. So again, I got to figure out where my niche is going to be. I'm trying to do the same thing again, where I'm going to be going with battle reports and with tactical type videos, but we'll have to see where that goes. So once that happens, you need to basically start working on having good content. And good content means having an interesting point of view. You can't just be on there talking really boring and monotone. You know, the more excited you are talking about what you're talking about, the more people will be interested in watching you. I mean, you can have the best painted army and, you know, the best tactical maneuvers going on, but man, if it's boring to listen to, people aren't going to watch it. And so that goes back to finding your niche, where sometimes what you need to do with that is just find out what you're passionate about. I mean, I'm passionate about tactics. So, I mean, when it came to talking about, you know, what you should be doing in a given situation or army builds and counters, I can really passionately talk about that stuff. Other people, I've said, hey, your thing is art. You should be focusing on the art. Or your thing is whatever. Community, whatever it is, you should be focusing on those things. Once you do that, you also have to kind of then start wondering about your cost investment. These things are not cheap. I mean, right now I'm using this microphone that was $100, and you know, that's not super crazy expensive, but it is an investment you definitely should be planning for and thinking about. Or you're just going to be going with one from a webcam or something cheaper. When I bought this camera, this one here was, what was it? It was like $300. But I mean, the one I was heavily considering is the type of one that the guys like at Mini Wargaming use, but that's $1,400. And really, when I looked at the investment and how right now I'm not really being, you know, I don't have the same views on my War Machine, so the income that came from having the ads wasn't as much. I mean, before I could kind of use that to reinvest. Now I have to kind of make sure things are working out. And I mean, quality-wise, this thing's pretty damn good as well. So again, you have to kind of really keep all those costs in mind. Finally, you just got to stick with it. You got to know that you should not expect to have success overnight. Just like how with me going to War Machine now, it's going to take me a while to get known by the War Machine guys and to show them that, hey, not only am I putting out good content, but I'm not a splash in the pan, guys. I'm going to make these reports for a while. And once they see that you're going to be someone they can depend on for good reports, they're going to start coming to you. But it takes a long time to build that up. I mean, people say like, oh, wow, Malorian, you had all those subscribers when I was doing fantasy, but they didn't realize I did that for 10 years or whatever it was, right? Like, it was a really long time to build that stuff up. I think it was actually more than 10 years. So just be prepared to put in the time and keep that in mind to not get discouraged early. I forgot to view this guy's eyes first. That's going to make things more difficult. I'm just going to tab over, see if I see anything here. We got War General T saying, so how's the gaming going? What's your results so far now? The gaming is going very well. I haven't gone to another tournament since last time, but I got a couple of tournaments coming up here in January. definitely looking good and strong. The next big one that's going to probably be the major one to look out for is when I go to GrotzCon. GrotzCon is going to be one where there'll be a lot of really big names, and we're going to have a lot of people even from the States coming up to this one here, because there's something called the Mayhem Cup, which is kind of like this roving trophy, which is won by gaming clubs, and then they host the next event. And if a gaming club beats them, they'll take it to their state or whatever and run the tournament there. Well, actually, we went down, us Canadians, and the Grots mainly went and won it, and now it's up here. So if those Americans want their trophy back, they're going to come up here now. So that's going to be really, really interesting, and it'll be a real big test of my abilities. I mean, if I play these guys and they just rickroll me, well, then maybe I am not actually as good in this game as I think. However, if I can stand my own, which I think I should be able to do, I mean, I'm not thinking I'm going to trash all these guys and throw them to the curb, but I really am hoping that I can be at least 50-50 with a lot of these big names. But we will see. I mean, I'm not getting in the practice games I need to really be sure. I mean, say like Bradigus. Bradigus is a big thing I need to be prepared for, and I have never played against him, and that's a really big deal. So I'm going to need to make sure I focus on some of those weaknesses I have. But otherwise, I'm really feeling good, and the dedication I've been putting into it, I've been seeing results for. Going back to the submitted questions, we have Terry Slade saying, in competitive play, which war nouns would you think we will see more of in 2015? And which will we see less of? By war noun, I'm guessing he's talking about whether it'll be War Machine or Warhammer. And I'd say in 2015, you are definitely going to see more War Machine. It's what I'm focusing on. I know a lot of people won't be happy with that, but there'll also be a lot of people that are actually happy with that. So I'm not out of the woods here yet. I definitely have to do a lot more here. And I got to be winning a lot more tournaments. I mean, I'm starting to get a little stack of trophies and stuff, but it's not enough yet. You know, it's not enough to make sure I will really be noticed and that I can really prove to the council that I should be someone on the team. I mean, so far I've only won one big event, right? And even that, I mean, that's just, it's not big like in the States. It's like big for here. So definitely need to get more of those under my belt to really be using in my like gamer resume for when I want to apply. And my biggest fear is that missing things, like I was supposed to be going to Lock and Load, but then that fell apart because of what was that one that fell apart? Oh, anniversary. It was the same time as our anniversary. You know, that's huge, missing that. A lot of big tournaments there I could have played in, a lot of big players I could have played against, and now I missed out on all of that. So that's really, really bad and a little bit of a setback. All right, next one here is from Rafael Maj. It's asking about my camera, but I answered that on the actual thing at the time. Bilbo Wild asking, are you missing Warhammer yet or any aspects of Warhammer? What it really comes down to is I miss the friends, the players. Of course, I played with these guys for years and years and years. I'm still subscribed to the YouTubers of them, and so whenever I see them posting a video or talking about it on Facebook, I just miss spending that time with the people. So when people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be running this game and blah, 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 or this crazy tournament happened and blah, 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 you know, I miss that time with them. However, at the same time, I have a whole new set of friends now, right? Just like I had all the people that I'd be chatting with at the Warhammer tournaments, now there's all the guys I'm meeting at the War Machine tournament. So, you know, it's really that's all I can really say is I'm missing the people the most. I can also say that I'm missing the scale of the armies, and maybe that's actually why in my list I take so many models, and I'm usually taking these swarms, is just because, hey, I mean, I'm used to taking a lot of models, and so maybe that's why I'm kind of replicating that in my lists, where I have a bajillion guys to swap my opponent with. Next one here from Lord 17C saying, just curious about why so much infantry in your list. Do you ever run low on time or jam yourself up? Also, tiers, why or why not? So, first of all, maybe, I mean, psychology-wise, I am running all those models because I'm used to running all those models, and I miss running all those models. However, tactically, I also believe it's a very strong option. It is really nice to have all these very strong beasties and robots and powerful things. However, just like in 7th, for Warhammer, the game is heavily dominated by the person who controls the movement phase. So sure, you can have stuff that's super awesome and will kick my butt, but if I can control your movement, then I can really limit what you can do and even like jam you out of scenarios and win that way. So I always, at first, like when I played Legion, I didn't take much infantry at all. Then I started doing some like callus lists and taking like tons and tons of infantry, and that's when I really learned that, wow, heavy infantry has a lot of potential. And now that I have a lot more better suited casters to support that, because I mean, Callus is all nice and great, but he can only do so much for you, whereas Haley too really helps you out. It really is helping a lot. Where, I mean, not only am I able to run up and block you out of zones and control you, so that I'm controlling the interactions, but also just death clocking my opponent. You know, they're seeing all my models and they're just like bewildered as to like, oh my God, how do you have so many models? What am I going to do with all these things? Because a lot of times when you're playing War Machine, it's kind of like chess, where you're making a move and then seeing what can counter you. But when the whole board is full of things, you're just like, wow, I can't do anything without being countered. So it really makes people think a lot, and when you think a lot, you use a lot of time, and when you use a lot of time, you death clock yourself, and Malorian does a little happy dance. So, yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Now, do I death clock myself? Pretty much never. I had a game a little while ago where it actually came a little bit close. I ran my big spam list against a defense skew, and basically I'm the one that got kind of like bamboozled, and I was getting close on time at the end. However, I did not, and so that means I still have not death clocked myself in, I can't even remember the last time I death clocked myself. Like, that's how long it is. Like, definitely within the last year, I have not death clocked myself. Possibly within the last 2 years, I have not death clocked myself. And I think that really does come from my 40K days, where I'd be running space orcs and running, you know, like multiple units of 30 boys, and you have to move them really fast, especially when it came to either tournaments or, say, games of Apocalypse, where the way that Apocalypse worked for deployment is that whatever you could not deploy within whatever time you bet on, you just did not get those guys. They just go off the board, and it was a really big deal. And so I got really fast at deploying my guys, at using my guys, and I think now that's really giving me a big advantage here in War Machine. He then says as well, do I ever jam myself up? No. I mean, the way that I always set up my things in waves, and so really I just got to deal with the stuff in front first. There has been times where I wanted to get a solo up forward, or I forgot to move a unit, or model rather, so it was now causing me problems, but those have been really rare, and when I need to, I just kill my own models. I mean, that's, again, the nice thing about having so many guys is that if I have one guy that's in my way, I'll kill him, right? A lot of times your caster is not making an actual attack. He's just upkeeping and doing a spell and whatever else. And so it's really easy to say, okay, I'm just going to upkeep this, come here, cast a spell, kill this guy. It's my own, but now I'm clearing up the lane I needed to sneak up that solo or whatever else I needed. And again, that's something I actually really love about War Machine as opposed to Warhammer, is just that ability, right? Unless you're a Skaven, you're just going to attack your own guys. But in War Machine, hey, if it helps you out to kill your most powerful model, go ahead. Yay, Hunter coming together. So there's answering that one. Skip back now, see if there's any other questions. And it seems like that one comment has disappeared, but we do have lots of viewers. So again, I've been answering the questions from the last video, but if you have something new, just post it here. T-Bone saying, what color is a mushroom? White, usually, sometimes brown. I'm sure this is related to something else, some innuendo or something, but I would say white. Then we have one here from D. Cainhan saying, unfortunately, as I live in the UK, I won't be awake probably for the Paintisode itself, but I do tend to watch them afterwards while I'm painting, so I'm sort of there in spirit. What I would like to hear is your thoughts on the new set of resculpts from Privateer Press. Pythagoras has always caught my eye from a rules point of view, but a model was a bit naff. The new version looks a lot better. So a Malorian take on the new sculpts being released would be cool. On this one here, it's good to see Privateer Press doing these resculpts because there is some older, uglier models. And sometimes when I'm trying to sell War Machine, one of the things that people have against War Machine is some of the uglier models. Some of the ones with the massive shoulder pads or the really old guys are out of scale, say like the Black 13th. And so the fact that they're remaking these models is good for that point of view. Plus, it also makes me have more faith in Privateer Press as a company going on. Because, like I've said multiple times before, if your business plan is to keep on releasing out models, eventually you get to a point where there's just too many. However, if you start to re-release models, all of a sudden that's not a strain on the actual game rules, and it gives them an income, and as gamers, we're happy as well. So I really like seeing that. However, sometimes I wonder about whether they'd be better off just making a new unit. One of the best examples of that was the Gatorman Posse. The old Posse was okay. The new Posse looks really good. However, Minions really needed a new unit. And so if instead of a resculpt, this could be now like, okay, we had Gators with their little halberds before. Now these are Gators with a shield and a mace or whatever. Like a new unit would have meant the world to Minions. It would have been a huge, huge, huge boost to them. I mean, really, if you're playing Gators, you have one choice for units. That's really it. There's one Gator unit. That's all there is. So okay, sure, there's like the Boker and Shamblers, but for like pure Gators, that's all there is. So having another option would have done way more than a resculpt. I know they redid one like Siege. The old Siege was fine. He didn't really need a new sculpt, but the new sculpt is awesome. So I know, again, like I said, it's kind of good. I would have rather they would have redone the Black 13th rather than Siege. But hey, I'm sure this is something they'll get to eventually. Last part of his question. Also, which models would you want Privateer Press to resculpt? My chosen two would be Bethane. I actually like Bethane. But that also means a new Belphegor resculpt, which seems unlikely, or maybe P-Vale. Yeah, Bethane, I don't know. Like the little claw things are a little weird, but Belphegor looks really awesome. Bethane really isn't that bad. The ones that I see that need a resculpt were, I mean, like the Seraph got redone. That was a really good one to resculpt. Black 13th, all the ones that are out of scale. Those ones should be really redone. What other ones are ugly models? I can't really think of. I mean, to me, maybe just because I haven't played a lot of them too much. Like, I mean, just for knowing all the other armies, nothing else is really coming to mind. I mean, some of the ones that were ugly, they already have redone. Say for the heavy kit. So where I'm right now looking at the old Warp Wolf, which had this like weird hunch over pose with these spikes going everywhere. The new plastic kits for the heavies are awesome. Some of the old jacks, say like the old Centurion or Hammersmith, are kind of small. The new ones are bigger. And the nice thing that I like about that too is that it doesn't really matter. Make the models as big as you want. It all just is based on their base size, and each base size has a height already basically plugged in. So it's not what you see is what you get. It's all based around the base anyway. So if you want to make things looking bigger and more impressive, go for it. Check back over here. All right, so next one here from Knickknack95. As a dwarf fan, I have been naturally drawn towards Rulik, but as a purely Rulik army, is a purely Rulik army still viable, or has the evolution of the game and the factions, both in War Machine and Hordes, relegated them to being just allies for other armies, or as seen as non-competitive option? This one actually came up in a previous Paintisode, and my ideas are pretty much still the same. So Rulik are like minions, where they are very limited in the models released, and especially for Ruliks, where, I mean, for minions, it really is either the pigs or the gators. Minions are just a small part of mercenaries, and they just, even though they have more stuff than gators, they still don't have all that much stuff. The Earthbreaker coming out really changed things. We'll have to kind of see if the battle engine is also going to change them as well. But I mean, they're another unit that could do with, I don't know if a new heavy would actually change things for them, but a new unit. You know, Forge Guard are nice, but they could be really fleshed out in a lot of different ways. So do they need that? No, they don't need that. You could take what they have now, base them around the Earthbreaker, and make very strong Rulik armies. But at the same time, you're again limiting yourself. I mean, being a Rulik army gives you some bonuses, being Seer Forge, but at the same time, if you would have gone for another contract, getting other elements in there. So not so much that you're taking Rulik as the allies, but you're starting with your Rulik base and bringing other things in as allies. It can do a lot more for them. So I would highly suggest that if you love Rulik, go ahead and buy the hell out of them, but really keep an eye on the other mercenary stuff as well, and don't force yourself to go into Seer Forge. You know, you don't need to be that ultra purist, but if you do want to stay with them, I still believe you can be competitive, where you're going to go out there and beat the best players in the world and win the Masters. Probably not, but it's not like you are going to get just rolled over either, right? That would have been what I had said before the Earthbreaker, but now the Earthbreaker is out, they can definitely hold their own. Next one here is Kazak Brunstein saying, pancakes, Canadian or American? I'm assuming you're talking about Canadian, but I don't think there's any difference between our pancakes. I mean, maybe that's me being racist, but I'm pretty sure Canadian and American pancakes are pretty much the same, in that we have lots of different versions of pancakes. Some people like them more fluffy, some like them more with berries, some whatever. And I'm sure it's exactly the same thing in the States, right? So either way, pancakes good. So maybe that's how we're going to bring ourselves together, right? One day, Harper and Barack Obama will sit down, they'll share some pancakes, and everything will be rainbows and happiness. And then all of a sudden, it'll be an issue of what bacon to have, either your bacon or Canadian back bacon, and then boom, World War III. So, but we will see what the future has in store. But either way, pancakes good no matter what flag it's waving. Kevin Bashford saying, as an up-and-coming Signar player, is there any point in which there's too much shooting in your Signar list? And if so, is there a ratio of shooting to melee average for most generic Signar lists? Signar loves to shoot. That is definitely something that is one of our strengths. Things like the Hunter are really, really good at shooting, and we have a lot of shooting type jank going on. I'm looking at you, Kane, too, that you don't really have in other armies. So definitely one of our strengths. Now, when does that become too much? And what that really breaks down to as well is whether you're looking at one list or two. A lot of times when I am making a two-list pairing, I will make one list that is super shooty, so be it Siege or be it Kane 2, and then the other list is going to be more melee based, because there are a lot of armies out there that will kick your teeth in if you go all shooting. Some of them could be like Barnabas, where like, hey, we're sitting in these swamps I made, and you can't even target us, and we got this Snapjaw and Wrong Eye who have an animus that say, you can't target us. And if you're playing shooting, you just lose. You could also face something like Lilith 2. And then all of a sudden, oh, your entire battle pack has stealth? Well, I might have a couple of small outs for stealth, but nothing that can really overcome that disadvantage, so I guess I lose. So in that way, it's not so much in the list itself, it's really in the pairing. So again, I guess the ratio would be 1-to-1. I have one list that's all shooting, one list that's all melee. But if you're looking at one list, then you also have to go into your risk, right? You could say that, okay, what happens if I do face Lilith 2? Maybe I want to have all these other things. But at the same time, hey, maybe I just want to make sure I win whatever games I can, and I'll hope to dodge Lilith 2. Either way, I would always say you want to have some shooting in your list. You need to have something there so that if you go up against Biles or whatever, that you have something in there that can deal with these little models that are either critical to kill or they're just in your way, right? Maybe they just have some little cheap model that they're throwing in your face, and unless you have shooting to get out of the way, you have to dedicate something else to kill it, and now it's in the way. So a little bit of shooting at least is a really good thing to have. Now, you also don't want to go 100% shooting, where you're just going to say, I'm just going to be a gun line. The reason for that is because there's scenarios in this game. So you could have everything with a gun, but I would not plan on everything sitting back and shooting. Something, whether it be Rangers or whether it's actually a regular unit you have in there as well. A lot of people like Boom Howlers. I like to have things like Election or Risen, or you can even be doing with gun mages. One of the new jams I'm doing is one that has Kane 2 with gun mages. They get Gunfighter, and now they're getting in your face. And so now I don't need to worry about scenario, because these gun mages are running up to jam things up and are also shooting at the same time. So basically what I'm saying there for shooting is that you should never have two lists in your pairing that are both primarily focused on shooting. I think that'd be a mistake. And in any list, you always want to probably have a little bit of a ranged option. And if you are looking at just a one list, I mean, whether we're saying 10% shooting or 90% shooting, it's really more about having a solid game plan as opposed to having the perfect ratio. Because the ratio for Siege or Kane 2 or Haley 2 can be vastly different, and even with those same casters, can be vastly different depending on how you're planning to play. If I'm doing a Kane 2 gun line, sure, I might have 90% or 95 or even 100% of the stuff that shoots, or I could also run the other way, where I run a lot of things where combat-wise, and Kane 2 is just jumping around and shooting when he can, or just setting up for the assassination. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't go to either extreme unless you're running two lists, and be prepared for that whole thing, and make sure you focus more on your game plan rather than your ratio. All right, next one here, Recce All Sideways. Are you officially quitting Warhammer Fantasy? So I do have the video out saying, you know, goodbye fantasy. I had that one out right away. Am I officially quitting Warhammer Fantasy? What I'm officially done doing is buying books and staying actively staying up on all the rumors and meta changes. Now, that doesn't mean I won't play. Again, I'm not going to go out and actively try and find a game. If I have the option of playing either War Machine or Warhammer, I'm going to go with War Machine. With that being said, if some guy says, hey, it's my birthday, I'm having guys over, and we're playing a bunch of Warhammer, well, great. I'll grab the orcs and we'll go play. As well, I'm not going to say this is totally ruled out forever because, hey, maybe later on Ninth comes out or something that really reinvigorates this, and I could come back to it. So I wouldn't say that Malorian's never going to play Warhammer again. It's just right now I'm not actively going after these things. And even then, I wouldn't say either that I'm not keeping up. Like I already mentioned, I still am subscribed to all the people that I was to before, and whenever they post videos, I learn through them. Now, what I'm not doing then is I'm not spending all the times reading the book, strategizing, keeping up on all the rumors, and that was something that I needed to do before. Back when I was wanting to be competitive with both War Machine and Warhammer, for both systems, I'm spending all this time saying, okay, who won this tournament? What was the list? What was the game plan? What's going to be the shift in meta? And it was just too much. I mean, maybe I just have a simple brain, but I just found that that was just too much to try and stay track of. And that's why I just say, you know what? I'm just going to do this for one game. With that in mind, we go on to the next one, back from Kazak Brunstein, saying, also, Skaven rumors for the 4th End Times book. I did see that. I have not seen any actual rumors of what that means. I don't know if there's anything even released yet, but it definitely is interesting. I mean, it's not really like, oh, wow, Skaven, because even from the very first book, even from the Gash's book, it was already being rumored that the 4th one or whatever was going to be Skaven. So I am not in awe and shock because of hearing this. In fact, one of the things that had me in shock is that I was told that the one after this is orcs and ogres. So that would be interesting if that one pans out and see what they do with that. But I'm really interested to see what they do. In some of the other books, they've been taking away some of their disadvantages. So are they going to do that with Skaven? Are they going to say that now their strength in numbers can't be negated? You know, I mean, clearly they're going to get some other like super big beastie. Clearly then to do that, it's going to be some sort of Moldor unit. Maybe they'll redo the Great Horned Rat and give him rules. But clearly, I mean, if you're a Skaven player, this is good news for you because you're going to be getting some sort of new little goodie. Now, as far as what that's going to mean for fluff and all the rest of that stuff, I don't know those things. Those are not the questions for me. Because, again, I'm just not keeping up with those things. But it's good to see that the ball is rolling, and if nothing else, the fact that people are... I was really worried with some of these things that people were going to get really pissed off at that at times, and we might see a lot of people dropping off. And now, like, if you watch, which you should, Once Bitten, I mean, he's been loving playing with these new scenarios and new rules. So that's really good to see. All right. So that's all the questions that I had from the last video there. I'll come back over here, and I now see from Death Corp Karmasar, went to my first Steamroller Saturday, went 3-1, awesome. But well, that's good. 3-1 is not bad. But had a great time. Awesome Warm Horrors community in Seattle. Yes, Seattle has a great one from what I hear. Anyways, how do you prepare for tournaments, like mentally, what to bring and practicing? Well, the biggest thing that you need to prepare for tournaments is your game plan. Clearly, if you're going to a tournament, you probably already have some lists that you've been playing and you've been getting games in. And so now you have to be thinking about these lists and how they're going to be handling whatever meta is in the tournament that you're going to. And sometimes you'll know because it's a local tournament, you'll take it on. And sometimes you might be going to Lock and Load or something somewhere else, and you're just going to have to try and handle whatever meta they have. So that's can be a really big, harder question than I'm kind of simply putting it. But really what I'm saying there is, like, for example, I'm going to be going to Grand Prairie here later next month. I know there are going to be circle players there playing Bradigus. And so I am going to be damn sure that in my list, I am going to have an answer for Bradigus. Again, like I mentioned, the fact that I have not played against Bradigus yet is a big issue. So as far as a question to practicing, what am I going to do? Practice those matchups. You know, I really want to find someone who plays Bradigus. I'm going to tell them, hey, I need to play Bradigus. Can you go and bring him against me? And get those things done. And, you know, that's a stage in a gaming group that a lot of them don't get to. You know, a lot of people are a little bit more, let's put it, greedy, where they only really care about practicing their own lists and strengthening themselves. However, as a group, it's a lot better if you work together saying, hey, sure, I want to practice this guy, but I know that you've been having a lot of trouble with dude spam. So how about I bring a big dude spam, and we'll see how you can, you know, practice taking on that. Or you've been having trouble with this caster, or even this scenario, or even just death clock. Whatever you need to focus on, arranging a game to help a certain person, clearly, again, after they'll be doing the same for you, to get more out of that experience. Because, I mean, one example here could be, oh, you know, there's a local guy that loves Veil 2. You know, if you had an option, he's going to take Veil 2 every single time. However, maybe as a Legion player, or sorry, a Signar player, I just need to get practice against Abby 2. I've not faced Abby 2, and so I would really like him to play that. So I'll say, hey, man, in this next time we're playing, can you break out Abby 2? I just want to get some practice against that. You'll say, sure. And then hopefully he follows up with something like, you know what, I've actually been really wondering how I pair up against Striker 2. So can you bring a Striker 2 list for me to practice against? And that's where you're going to be getting a lot more. And then again, talking to these guys and your club mates after. Hey, so, I mean, for myself, I can see, you know, Bradigus kicked my butt or whatever in the game, but I should talk to the circle player after, say, all right, what do you feel were my biggest mistakes? What do you think I could have done to counter this? And again, it's hard to get a group like this because clearly if somebody is telling you how to beat them, they know that when it gets to the tournament, you are giving them tips on how to, you know, to win that game in the tournament. So, but it's really important, and then you can just grow as a group. Something else you can do is if you can find tournament results from their meta, check those out, right? Find out what have been the winning lists, what type of players usually win, right? And then you kind of look at their play styles. I mean, stalking can come in here where, okay, let's go to the Privateer Press forums and see what they've actually been posting about and stuff like that. But for the most part, yes, just doing your research about that meta and who you're likely to see there. Again, in the local steamrollers here, one of the things I have to always be prepared for is we have one guy, Tyler, where I know he's probably going to play Kador, and I'll have to deal with Sorsha. And so with the whole Sorsha Oceans list, and so I need to have an answer for that. As well, there's several players that love to do the Butcher Theme Force, the Butcher 2-1, with the Doom Reaver spam. So I need to have an answer to Doom Reaver spam, right? So it's just really looking at those options and looking at your list and critically saying, okay, what would I drop in these situations? Would it be a good drop? is there any way I can make this better? And then really just playing. You know, in the end, you can strategize all you want, but if you don't get those practice games in, then all of a sudden you can have your perfect plan ruined because you just slightly deployed or did one activation wrong, and then everything falls apart. You really want to practice to the point where everything is, you know, almost muscle memory type thing. I mean, that's really at the point I was getting to with fantasy, where I just had played so much that I could just be set, and I just had to more focus on the strategizing of my particular list because I played so much. But a lot of times, because it's a changing meta, you just got to practice against that new meta whenever it comes up. But either way, it sounds like you're doing very well. 3-1 is definitely a very solid standing. And clearly then you must be already doing a lot of these things or being at that level. So really, I mean, for you, if you're a person who's going 3-1, you should look at that guy, like who beat you? Who's up there in the top 4 players in your area, and who's the guy who beat you, right? One of the ones for me that I knew that I was always dealing with was this guy, Sean here, a local Legion player, where in the very beginning when we were both new to the game, I was beating him, that he just started beating me all the time. And so I started always taking lists with him in mind. And now I basically answered that problem where whenever we play, he's like, yeah, until Zerial comes out, I might as well throw in the towel. But, you know, and then that'll change again. When Zerial comes out, I'll have to reassess. All right, I know this guy's still in my meta. How am I going to be making a list that can handle these casters now knowing that Zerial is in the mix? So always interesting, always fun. So looking at the time, we have been going almost an hour. I have answered all my questions that I see so far. I have almost painted my entire model here, so we're looking pretty good overall. So again, if you have any last questions you want me to answer, please post them up. I'll do one last refresh. I have the screen open and another one too, just because there's such a long delay here. So before I go, I'll be checking that one last time. But otherwise, we're looking pretty good. If my brother is watching this, paint your models. We had a little argument about that today where in some of the local tournaments, you need to have things painted, and he was kind of grumbling about it. And it's just like, man, just get her done. You know, every night you spend complaining about it and not painting is just one more day you fall behind. And really, this is all it is, right? Do one little, let's say, an hour session, and if you finish one model a week, you're going to finish a full list over a course of a year. And the nice thing about this game is that once you start getting to that point where you have like one list made, all you need to start doing is that one extra unit or model that you have in a particular list, and it just gets easier and easier and easier. It's just going to put in that initial time, get her done, and then from then on, you're on freaking easy street. Gorn Iron Fist saying, I'm starting a Blood in the Badlands campaign. Got any helpful hints or tips? The big helpful hint or tip I can give to you is really make sure that you design the campaign around those playing it. So, like, for example, if you have guys that are, you know, I don't want to call them spacey, but let's say, you know, they want action all the time. Well, make sure you have something that's going to be always something new, something exciting, and fast-paced. If you have a group that really likes having lots of details, well, then make sure you have that deeper detail. If you have a group that loves narration, well, I mean, find a way to put a story to your games. So that's, I mean, for all the failed campaigns that I've seen over the years, they've all been because of the same reason. Somebody just said, I'm going to run a campaign, and then say, like, here are the rules, join whatever you want. And then because that campaign wasn't built for those players, people just lost interest. You know, maybe some people loved it, others didn't, but the problem is that when you have a campaign for X number of people and some people drop out, the whole campaign starts falling apart, because what happens when this army just nobody's controlling it anymore, and you can really get in trouble there. With that in mind, feel free to use your godlike powers to do whatever you need, right? If this orc player just backed out because they lost interest, they moved, they died, whatever, just say like, okay, this area now is volcano and it's not part of the map. Or we're now going to be doing a 3-player game and whoever wins takes over this area, right? Just make things move on. And as well, make sure that things are going to be more fast-paced in general. Even though some people want things more fast-paced than others, the tournaments I've seen that are campaigns that are designed to go a long time, they die. The ones that are designed to go 4 months to half a year, those are usually the ones that work out a lot better. Or if you look at the privateer press ones, those are usually just within 1 month or 2 months. And you know, there's nothing wrong with doing a series of campaigns rather than one longer one, right? Designing campaigns like, okay, bam, in round 1, whoever wants to join, we'll do this. We're going to do a game once a week, and the whole thing's going to be done in 1 month. Okay, now who wants to be part of this time, right? These events have happened. This is the new storyline. Who wants to take part? All right, another month or maybe another 2 months, and then just restart it. And you'll find that you'll get a lot more success with that, as opposed to, this is the mighty campaign. I have written this tome of how the whole thing will work. And then you just run into those problems where people get bored, people drop out, and you're just trying to make this thing finish with the few people you have left. So that would be my big one there. All right, I'm going to go over now, and I'm going to refresh to see if there's any other questions here. See if there's any last ones put on. Pause. Go down. Oh, the screen thing I have is so bad. Oh, screen. Answered that one. Oh, Death Corpse Commissar saying he went 1 and 3. Yeah, 1 and 3 is a little bit worse than 3 and 1, but hey, you know, it's not 0 and 4, right? So don't feel like you're a failure because you went 1 and 3. That's definitely is not a bad thing. Especially, I mean, look at who you beat and who beat you, right? I mean, if you lost to someone who was near the top, don't feel bad about that. And the biggest thing is from these is actually you could be in a better spot because you usually have more to learn from your losses than you do from your wins. So look at those losses. Like, okay, so in this tournament here, you went 3 and 1. Look at who you lost to, especially if you know you're going to see them in the next tournament. And if you could say, okay, this guy beat me on Death Clock. Well, practice that Death Clock. You know, even force it, right? If you find that Death Clock is always a problem for you, play time turns. That will make you good at Death Clock, right? If you found that you lost to this guy because he beat you on scenario, okay, reassess the scenario potential of your lists. If this guy assassinated you, reassess your survivability options, right? You have a lot more to learn from those things there. I mean, for myself, when I first started playing, my biggest thing is that I learned that I was getting myself killed all the time. Usually around turn 2, I was dying to range assassination. And what really took me to stop doing that is first taking the time to look at how easy and mathematically prove to myself how easy it is to die to a ranged assassination, then starting to reteach myself the ways you stay alive with blocking line of sight, using terrain to your advantage, like cover and so forth, and then actually doing a specific campaign where I'm playing games and my only objective is to not have my caster die by turn 2. It sounds completely pathetic, but it's what I went for to make sure this would actually happen. So don't feel bad about that 1 in 3. Things happen. And maybe even talk to those guys too, right? But one of the biggest things that can always hold you back is pride. So sometimes when somebody beats you, you just don't want to talk to them. They're your enemy, and you want to go and find a way to defeat them so that next time you see them, bam, you can kick their butt, and you're the big man because you won now and got revenge. Well, you know what? If this guy's beating you, maybe he's the perfect person to be your next spar partner, right? Talk to this guy. Again, with the same questions I said before, in the game we had. What do you feel I did right? What do you feel I did wrong? What do you think about my list? And then all of a sudden, by building off of each other, that's going to be making both of you better. Like, sure, you might be improving him, but one of the worst things you can do for improving as a player is not, how can I put this? Not taking counsel with people of your level. So if you are working to try and get to those upper bands, but you keep on strategizing with newer players, they just can't give you that input. If you're always talking about people that are about roughly the same gaming skill, then you'll be able to bounce off the same sort of level of topics to each other. And the same problem too, like maybe if you shoot too high, right? If I go out there and I start saying, like Jay Larson, let's talk about this here, he can be talking about a lot of things that, even though it would be really good tips for me, are just completely over my head. I am just not there yet. I need things to be brought down a level. And instead of having to tell someone like Jay Larson, hey, can you, bring it down to my stupid level, I should be finding somebody else. And the people that probably is who am I losing to? Because clearly, if I lost to them, at some point we got matched up at a tournament, and the tournament was saying that we were about equal skill at that point, and we should be facing each other. Sure, maybe they shut up after, but at that point, it was about the same. And clearly, if you're beaten by 3 people, look to see which ones were the closest to you, and make sure to talk to them first. So I will do one last refresh here, because I believe we are at the hour now. My hunter number 3 is fully painted. I need to pause this video very quick. Oh, the sound's off anyway. There are no new comments. So either way, I finished painting my hunter. I still have to go and put the wash on him, but then he'll be looking like this guy here. And then the pew, 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 pew can start. And then maybe next time I can start painting hunter number 4. But there you go. As always, I like hearing what you guys were painting on your side. If you have any other questions that I missed here, you can post them down, and I'll do my best to answer them after the fact. But otherwise, I'll be doing this every Monday, putting out the video on the Sunday for the posting your questions on, if you can't actually make this time. And we'll catch you then. So thanks for watching, and bye.